But I've always felt he's a flat track bully. And when he gets put on him, I think he struggles.
I think that he definitely can beat Usyk. Fury, I'm not so sure.
He gets hit by Deontay Wilder, he's gone. This is Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver, episode 12. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing. And of course, leaving the questions in the comment section below. But let's get on with a very busy show. Spence, not a lot going on in the ring last week in terms of fights. Obviously, Amanda Serrano had a fight. But a lot going on outside, a lot of chat going on.
Yeah.
And of course, the big news is April 1st. Anthony Joshua's back in the ring. Jermaine Franklin.
Yeah.
What's your take on all that?
Well, I know that the fight's getting a lot of criticism. I think that people wanted to see the Dillian Whyte fight. Dillian Whyte has just beat Jermaine Franklin, albeit very questionable. Arguably, very close fight. I think that I think it's a good opponent. I just think that he's not getting the credibility because he's pretty much an unknown quantity. Because we'd never really heard of him before he boxed Dillian Whyte. He come over here. I think that it was a credible performance. Like I say, a lot of people felt he won that fight. He showed good durability as well.
Was it a credible performance because Dillian Whyte is remarkably diminished after the beating he took from Tyson Fury, or was it a credible performance because this guy is better than ranked at 29?
I think he's better than what he's ranked. I think that he showed that if you look at the performance as a whole, he showed, he put it on Dillian a few times. He had Dillian Whyte hurt a few times as well, but he also showed great durability. Dillian's heavy-handed, as we know.
Yep.
Dillian put it on him as well, and he stuck it out there, for the full 12 rounds. So, look, Anthony Joshua's comeback fight, we've talked about this in the past, the psychological damage that he's had from the Alexander Usyk losses, from the Andy Ruiz loss. He's trying to rebuild his career. And for me, I think it's a credible opponent. I think it's a potential banana skin. Dangerous fight for him, really.
I'm going to ask you why you think it's dangerous just in a minute, but I actually think there's sense behind. We've all got excited, as you and I have discussed before on previous shows, and everyone else discussed the idea of Tyson Fury fighting Anthony Joshua in December or at the end of November when Tyson wanted it to be. And whilst there was an excitement about getting Anthony Joshua back in and getting this express train of a big fight, it wouldn't have been the best version of Anthony Joshua. It would have been the version that would have suited Tyson Fury best. Right? So whilst it looked like a magnanimous offer of a 60-40 split or whatever he had offered Anthony Joshua, more significant than people anticipated, it's because Anthony Joshua would have brought more money to the table than anyone else, so 60-40 is probably equivalent to 80-20 on other fights that he could have given challengers an opportunity on. But B, it would have not been the right fight for Anthony to take to give himself an opportunity to rebuild. Whoever you are, whatever you do, if you take a couple of demoralising defeats, one where you fought completely the wrong game plan and slightly embarrassed yourself, and the other where you just came up short and the exasperation you felt afterwards was all evident for everyone to see, it's absolutely right that you take some rebuild fights. I was listening to a couple of other commentators, Nick Peet and Adam Cattrall, who I think are great commentators, talking about their absolute disappointment in this fight. I think it's an okay fight. I would prefer to see him in there with someone like Otto Wallim. And I can't quite buy, and I know apparently I'm not allowed to use Eddie Hearn's name, because if I do use his name, it's because I'm indexing my name to his name and trying to rise my profile by Eddie Hearn. Mate, you're running your dad's business. But look, the idea that, he couldn't have fought some better names and those guys, the promoters, are selling it as a real fight, does cause me concern, because I don't think it helps rebuild Anthony Joshua, because if he wins this fight compellingly, everyone's going to say it's what you should have done. If he wins it in a slightly more arduous way, in the same way that Dillian Whyte did, people are going to say you're done. It looks to me like a zero-sum game. It looks to me like whichever way he goes, he ain't going to come out of this with a huge amount of, oh, wow, AJ's back.
A huge amount of respect. And I get that, because listening to people, you listen to people the way they're speaking about the fight, because Franklin is an unknown quantity. That's where the problem lies here. It doesn't matter how good or how bad he actually is. We can only go off the Dillian Whyte performance, and I thought actually he's not a bad opponent. But Otto Wallim, after that good performance he put in against Tyson Fury, people recognise the name. So they think it's a credible opponent to come back for Anthony Joshua. What we got to understand with Joshua is he's at this stage of his career at the moment where He's trying to find the right trainer. He's trying to put the whole team together. And whilst he's doing that, he needs confidence building as well. You know, he's coming off that loss to Alexander Usyk. And to me, I thought he boxed better than the first time, a lot better than the first time.
Yeah, but he set himself a low standard in the first one.
He did. Yeah. His game plan was all wrong. Everything was wrong second time. But he's missing that little something. He's missing that rawness that once took him to a world heavyweight title. Like, he's missing that fighting with his heart on his sleeve. And I think he won't regain that, if he'll ever regain it, unless he's got the right trainer.
Let's move past the Spencer Oliver, Anthony Joshua Appreciation Society and move into the reality of what Anthony Joshua is likely to achieve. Because obviously this fight is being billed as a rebirth. Yeah, people are sort of saying that Dillian Whyte's got moved out of the way again and it's getting an unfair disadvantage. Again, Dillian Whyte gets prejudiced for a financial opportunity. He would cry that he didn't get a world title shot for 3 years. The bigger question is, Spence, let's assume, rightfully or wrong, that he's going to go through Jermaine Franklin.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't, he's done anyway.
Oh, right? I agree.
Do you believe that there is a road to some form of redemption? And I don't mean redemption in terms of getting people's forgiveness. I mean redemption in terms of people recrediting Anthony Joshua, because I think he's outside of the top 5 now.
Sure.
I don't think he's got the same luster. I don't think he's spoken about in the same way as he once was. And I don't think, even in my thinking, I'm thinking about what's going to happen with Deontay Wilder. I'm thinking about what's going to happen with Joyce.
Yep.
I'm thinking of what's happening with Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk. I'm not thinking about what's happening with Anthony Joshua. And I'm sort of looking at this going, yeah, all right, okay. Because I think he's done.
Yep.
Now, given that you're quite an advocate for him, and you think this fight's a fight with jeopardy and a fight that it could be a test for him, and a real fight, and you're forming part of the thinking that Eddie Hearn would have us believe is part of the equation, where do you think this journey is going to go for Anthony?
Well, I'm saying that this fight is for Anthony Joshua is the right fight to come back on. The right fight, I think, stylistically, that could, it's all about the confidence rebuilding, and he's going to need that. And I don't think you can deny him a fight like Jermaine Franklin to come back in, to regain a bit of confidence. Then we're looking at Dillian Whyte in the summer. Then he's talking about, a Tyson Fury or a Deontay Wilder in his third fight. And I think that's the roadmap for him over the next 12 months.
So why wouldn't he just take, let me just rephrase it then. Why wouldn't he just take Dillian Whyte now? I'm not interested in that fight, really. Yeah. But given it's got more credibility in it, Dillian Whyte's just come off the back of a loss and a sort of an inauspicious win.
Yeah.
Right? Some people even suggesting he lost that fight against Jermaine Franklin. So he ain't in good nick either, really.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just cut to the chase and say, it's a half meaningful fight? It gives everybody something out of the fight.
They obviously feel that Dillian Whyte at that stage may be too much of a risk.
Doesn't that then worry you about Anthony Joshua, about the state of him? Because if they've got to mollycoddle him and walk him backwards into a situation where he can be competitive again, aren't we in danger of discrediting Anthony Joshua's legacy, that he's a person that comes back from adversity, comes back from real adversity? Aren't we getting back to the stage where we're almost walking him in baby steps back into the heavyweight contention? Isn't that slightly patronising of the public, condescending to the fighter, and slightly worrying about the state that he's actually in?
Yeah. Listen, well, I think we worry about these psychological state of mind anyway at this stage. And I think that may be the reason behind taking Jermaine Franklin. But I think that, listen, he's teamed up with Derek James and they need time to gel together, time to get together. And I just think that they've looked at it and stylistically they thought Franklin's right for Joshua. And that's the road that they've taken. But look...
Why is it okay? Well, why is he? I mean, what did you see in the fight that he fought with Dillian Whyte, where he returned fire?
Yep.
What makes him right for Anthony Joshua?
I didn't say that.
No, this fight is right for him.
No, I'm saying that his team felt that this fight is right for him. Maybe because
you don't think it is then?
Maybe. Well, I think he's a potential banana skin, definitely.
Right.
I think that Franklin will come with a lot of ambition. After the performance he put in against Dillian Whyte and knowing where Anthony Joshua is now mentally. Not the physical side of things, just mentally, he'll think this is the right time for me. And this is like, he will treat this as his world title fight. He recognises beating Joshua puts him right up there. It's a big opportunity for him. I think that with Anthony Joshua, his team will be looking at it and seeing Franklin, he's quite flat-footed, stand in front of Joshua, and they'll feel that Joshua's got the explosive power to not just win, but take him out in style. And I think that's the calculated gamble that they're taking, as opposed to, Dillian Whyte, who they know they've got history together. You know, Dillian beat him as an amateur. They boxed as pro. Dillian had him in terrible trouble in the second round. Joshua done him eventually in the 7th. But they've got history. Stylistically, Dillian's always going to cause Joshua problems. And I think that they feel that they, you know, want to get Joshua back on the winning road before taking Dillian Whyte on.
What do you honestly expect to see in this fight? I mean, besides all the brouhaha about what kind of fight it is and the re-emergence and the rebirth of Anthony Joshua, they've got to package it this way because he's a cash cow.
Sure.
Right? But what do you genuinely... You've expressed worry and concern. I'm sort of ambivalent about it. I'm just going to wait and see. I'm not going to express huge opinions on Anthony Joshua because right now I don't think he's taking meaningful fights. Right. So with that in mind, I'm not going to give an overly focused outlook on Anthony Joshua, not because I don't want to discuss him, because we are discussing him, but because I don't think he's worthy of that right now. You're invested in Anthony Joshua, and you have a definitive opinion on this particular fight. I get what it is, but what do you expect to see from Anthony in this fight?
So what I expect
not what
to
you want to see, what you expect to see.
Yeah, I expect to see a newfound confidence in Joshua, a newfound belief in himself, because that's what he needs, and that's what I'm expecting. I think he knows that he needs to produce that as well. So I'm expecting an explosive performance from Joshua. That's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting Joshua to go out there, be a little bit tentative, you know, use his space, trying to pick his shots. I'm expecting him to be explosive.
Go in and blast him out.
And that's what I'm expecting. And I think anything less
than that is disappointment to you?
Anything less than that is not acceptable and is a disappointment. I think that's what he has to do. He has to make a statement. He has to go out there and he's got to raise an eyebrow. And people go, whoa, that's the Joshua I know. That's the one we... Anything less is not going to be acceptable.
Do you think if he negotiates Franklin, then he negotiates Dillian Whyte? I know we're asking him for 2 hurdles. Where does he land on the 3rd one? Do you think he's landing somewhere vaguely resembling a world title shot?
Well, listen, he lands... Yeah, I think he lands on the 3rd one in the space of Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury. That's the fight that he needs. Listen, it's not about... He's been a pro now a long time. It's not about, you know, if you give him the Franklin fight, you give him the Dillian Whyte fight, you got to let him go. He's got to go for that shot and try and regain that world title, and that is going to be with Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, one of them, that caliber of fighter. So that's where I see it going, and I see that, you know, after
just be interesting to see how that plays out, because he won't be, irrespective of this. I think this is a fair comment. Irrespective of what he does in the next 2 fights, he doesn't put himself above Joyce in the rankings. And if you're talking about Fury and Usyk fighting at the end of April, you're not seeing Joyce fight the winner of that until September. It's very unlikely you're seeing Anthony Joshua fight for a world title this year, is it? On that basis.
Listen, there's been so many moving parts in this heavyweight division. We don't know what that final chapter is going to look like. I know
it can't be, can it?
I know
it can't be. Anthony Joshua doesn't get above Joyce in the rankings, does he?
No, he won't get above Joyce.
So
in
he
the
doesn't
rankings.
get a mandatory.
Well, yeah, but it depends where their mandatories fall and when they have to be by. Do you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is that Anthony Joshua is obviously the cash cow, and for the champion,
can't be right though, can it? If Joyce does his job and beats Zhilei Zhang,
I get it,
and gets an opportunity to shoot for a shot at Tyson Fury, who I think will beat Usyk.
Or
Can't be Anthony Joshua jumps ahead of him, can it?
Or does Tyson Fury, after if he has this undisputed fight with Alexander Usyk, does Tyson Fury then go, I'll give up the WBO and start fragmenting the titles everywhere because he's done the undisputed? What I'm saying is, I suppose for Fury, for all the guys at that level now, it's about making those fights that are definitive fights for this era. And I think that, you know, I think that we need to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. You know, for Fury, if he wants to clean up the whole of the era, he's got to take that fight.
Maybe.
So, look, there's loads of things that can happen. I think ultimately Fury wants to become undisputed. If he does that, he may go, well, I'm happy to let those titles go now and just clean up, and become the modern day great of this era.
Well, I think he already is that. And I think if Anthony Joshua can't step up to the plate and demolish these next 2 fights that he has, he diminishes the case that he has for being at the table with Tyson Fury anyway. I think even if he got to that table, he'd gotten beat. For Anthony, you know, as an elite fighter, that was in people's minds an elite fighter, I always maintain that I always felt, and I know people around him don't like this and think it's unkind of me to say, but I've always felt he's a flat track bully. And when it gets put on him, I think he struggles, but I do want to get him back in the ring. I do want to see him being able to rectify it, ram it down people like mine throats to suggest that.
Do you think he can become a 3-time heavyweight champ? No.
Well, I say no straight away, because I'm looking at who he has to fight to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And if those people aren't there anymore, if Tyson Fury does one of his playing hide and seek with himself again and decides he's going to retire and his belts get vacated and he doesn't want to be like a dog in a manger and keep a belt for a year like he tried to do the first time round, then I can see if he fights somebody that's not necessarily Tyson Fury or Alexander Usyk. But even then, I'm trying to fight.
What about Joshua that boxed like, say, Vladimir Klitschko, that sort of Joshua? Do you think?
Yeah, but then who? Vladimir Klitschko was an old man.
I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying about the performance, you know. But
he fought against an old man.
He did, but he also showed a lot of heart and a lot of grit, and he come back.
I don't doubt that. But tell you what, if he has to fight, so who else are we talking about? Who has to fight for that? Maybe Deontay Wilder. You know, whilst I think technically Anthony Joshua is a far better fighter than Deontay Wilder, and most of the top 10 heavyweights are far better technically than Deontay Wilder, he gets hit by Deontay Wilder, he's gone.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that if he's put in against Deontay Wilder, it's a problem. I think if he goes in against Andy Ruiz again, who I think is now far better than he was, and seemingly again back in the groove again, I think he's got a problem there. I think he's got a world of problems against Joe Joyce. So I don't know where he wins a world title from. I don't know. I mean, you tell me. Am I wrong in this analysis?
I think that the next 12 months...
He's your mate.
The next 12
You're his PR.
I'll get on that WhatsApp group after. Yeah. The next 12 months are going to be interesting. Let's just see. I think this is going to tell us a lot about Anthony Joshua. April the 1st.
Do you think
performance,
he can win a world title again?
I believe that he can.
And who does he beat to win it? Because he's got to beat Fury or Usyk.
This is the point. No.
Or Joyce.
I think that he definitely can beat Usyk. I think that he definitely can beat Usyk. That is for sure. Fury, I'm not so sure. You know, Fury's the standout heavyweight out there at the moment, and anyone that would go against Fury being the #1 heavyweight out there at the moment would be stupid, because I think he's earned those stripes, and I wouldn't go against him for that. You know, his performances have been incredible. So,
we'll see, won't we? Look, the bottom line is we've got AJ back in the ring on April Fool's Day. Let's hope he doesn't make a fool of himself. Let's hope he makes a fool of Jermaine Franklin, knocks him out very quick, and we can build on perhaps a more meaningful fight that doesn't need to be sold in quite the robust fashion that certain people are trying to sell it.
So, Simon, just before we move on, I want to know what you make. This is really for you, this question, really, because I want to know what you make of this new DAZN subscription model. Do you think, because you know what it is?
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, they're going up from $7.99 to $19.99, or you can buy it all in one for 99 quid, which gives them some subscription up front. Look, I'm not allowed to mention DAZN, you know, apparently, according to, again,
but you
Eddie Hearn. If I mention Eddie Hearn and DAZN, I'm piggybacking off their names.
But you understand the business side of things, and what I'm saying is, like, so
they're trying to generate more revenue. They're not getting enough subscribers.
Yeah.
They're not getting enough revenue from their subscribers, so they think that they can generate more revenue on the limited subscriber numbers that they've got, certainly in the UK, by putting the price up or bundling it all up and getting some upfront money. I don't quite... See, you're asking me what I think of something that I've already described as not being very good.
Yeah.
So if I don't think it's very good...
do you think it will work?
No.
Is what I'm saying.
No.
The reason I asked that question, right...
You're not getting traction already. Why would you get more traction if you put the price up?
But that's why I asked the question, because as soon as I said to Nicola indoors, said, the subscription's gone up, I'm cancelling it. Like, I'm not paying 20 quid for... It's not that she's a big boxing fan.
I'm assuming you have a legitimate subscription for these things.
There'd
be no pirating going on in the Oliver household, would there?
I don't know what you mean, Simon.
Whatever do you mean?
Don't know what you mean, mate. But no, like, that's it. When you talk to the public about this subscription model moving up, 9 out of 10 people are complaining about that massively and saying, I'm cancelling the subscription.
The moment you put a price up, everybody's going to complain, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's complained endlessly about the price of football, yet they still subscribe.
Yeah.
Right? The proof of the pudding will be in the numbers. And if they do get the justification for doing it, my argument will be, and the challenge for me is I can't then turn around and say it makes good commercial sense.
Sure.
Because I've been quite critical of DAZN. I recognise that it's a VOD platform. I recognise it's got a platform that should have huge potential, and anything that can show more boxing and show it more visibly is going to be something I'm in favour of, right? And having a background of telecommunications and media, I look at these things with a commercial mind as well as a fan's mind. From a fan's point of view, I don't think the content is good enough. I think it can be better.
Yeah.
And I don't think putting the price up is going to help people like me with my perspective.
Yeah.
From a commercial standpoint, I'm assuming these guys that run these platforms...
Well, they're hemorrhaging money, aren't they? And I think that they recognise that there has to be change. Now, that's what I understand from the business side of it, that they can't continue the way that it's going because it's not working.
Well, they've got to get subscribers, and they're not going to get more subscribers by increasing the price. Now, if you get half as many subscribers for twice the price, you're in the same position.
Yeah.
Right? So that makes no real sense. And it doesn't cost that much money to make. If you've got 1 million subscribers at £19 and you had 2 million at £9, you're in the same position. Right? It makes no sense.
Is it a sign of desperation, maybe?
I think it's a sign of their positioning in the marketplace, that they think they actually seem to believe that their product quality is good enough to be able to warrant a price hike. They'll argue for the fact that ultimately, actually, we're not doing a price hike. We're changing the dynamics of it. If you want to pay £7.99 a month or whatever we've been charging previously, we will let you do it, but you pay all up front. So with that in mind, it's like having a season ticket at a football match. If you want to dip in and dip out, you pay £19.99. If you want to pay... if you want to get £7.99 or whatever it is a month, then you pay £99 for the year and you've got it. You're in the same position.
Right.
So over to you. So I think it's a calculated move to try and generate some upfront revenue.
Yeah.
I still maintain the argument that it's not what I anticipated. I'm not suggesting it's crap. I did use the terminology crap, so it's probably slightly too much hyperbole on my part. But I don't think it's good enough for what I thought it was going to be. I thought DAZN was going to be really clever, really engaging.
But they're also giving you like Anthony Joshua now for free within that subscription.
Yeah, and the cynic will say that that's because ultimately the benefit of this is Anthony Joshua is no longer being charged as a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Well, come on.
I know you're saying because of pay-per-view prices.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean,
I understand that.
Even the biggest snake oil salesman, Eddie, could not suggest that Anthony fighting Jermaine Franklin is a pay-per-view event. Yeah. Could they?
No.
They couldn't.
No, but if you look, well, you say that.
Come on.
I'm gonna give you one now. Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius. His comeback fight was pay-per-view. Was that really pay-per-view?
Well,
could you argue that was
that's
pay-per-view?
the American marketplace.
Yeah.
And I mean, the American marketplace, we argue about pay-per-view in this country at 20 quid or 19 quid or 24 quid. The Americans are paying 65, 70 quid, $70
That's
a
what
shot.
I mean, and they come back with Robert
and they're
Helenius.
conditioned in a certain way. They're conditioned in a certain way. I don't know what their subscriptions are over there for their stable diet. Yeah. We're paying, if we want to have Sky on our basic platform, we're paying £90 a month for Sky, and then you're paying pay-per-view on top.
Sure.
I don't think you can make the argument that ultimately you're paying $19.99 a month or £99 for a year and getting around the pay-per-view cost of Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua landed on DAZN and you're not paying pay-per-view for it. Well, that deal was done a long time ago. Anthony Joshua was given 120 million quid, wasn't he, to be on DAZN, and how they monetize Anthony Joshua and how they make it a hook and a drive to subscribe is for them. But I don't feel, for what my opinion is worth, that they've made the case, the proof of concept is there, to go from a price point of £7-8 a month to 19.
Sure.
And I can't, can I? Because I was saying the product was rubbish last week.
I'm going to give you one here, right? So let's say that they've now done this new deal, £99 for the year, $19.99 a month, and you're getting Anthony Joshua fights for free. Let's say Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury ends up on DAZN.
It won't.
No, I'm just saying in a fantasy world, we get that fight. Would they then go with a pay-per-view model on that, on top of this?
Of course. First of all, it's a silly hypothetical scenario because, first of all, Tyson Fury
I need to know.
He's a BT fighter.
I need to know where I'm at with this.
But he's a BT fighter. So with that in mind,
I'm just saying. The reason I'm using that, I could use someone else, but I'm using that because they're two recognisable names.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, do you think there'll still be a pay-per-view platform on top of this one?
Yes.
In time to come?
Yes, of course there will be. Because ultimately, unless they're going to get huge subscriber numbers and they can package it all in and not need to do pay-per-view, but then the fighters need to be paid. Right. Pay-per-view pays the fighters.
Right.
So with that in mind, you're not going to see... Anthony Joshua's conundrum and scenario with DAZN is a conundrum for DAZN. Sure. They thought they were getting the A side of a conversation. They've now got the B side that's gotten beat, doesn't know where he is, in the wilderness, now fighting Jermaine Franklin. This wasn't what DAZN signed up for.
Sure.
So they now can't ratchet up the narrative around Anthony Joshua and say that, we're giving you for free as a pay-per-view. They're juggling it around, trying to make everything look more value to the end user, when really and truly it's the same as what we had before, except it's twice the price, unless you want to pay it all up front. And if you, the public out there, think that's a good deal, fantastic. I don't. I think they've got to get their offering a lot better. Okay, Spence, moving on from Anthony Joshua, let's land in the into the juggernaut. Joyce fighting Zhilei Zhang on April the 15th at the Copper Box, which, by the way, will be a great venue for that fight. What do you make of that fight?
I've got to take my hat off to Joyce because...
You give him a lot of credit for taking it?
A lot of credit for taking that fight, and I watched an interview with him because he's a dangerous guy, Zhang. We saw the fight, the performance he put in against Filip Hrgović, who's a great fighter, and he beat Filip Hrgović. Not only did he beat him, in my eyes, because I think in most people's eyes he beat him, but he's heavy-handed, man, and he's like... And stylistically, he's going to cause Joyce problems because Joyce only knows one way come forward. Zhang only knows one way. Zhang's like 20 stone plus. It's a dangerous fight. Joe Joyce is in a position where he's in mandatory position, and we live in an era where the best don't fight the best until they have to. And Joe Joyce is a throwback where he goes, well, no, if I'm going to win a world title, I've got to go through people like Zhang. And so he's taken that fight, and I go, respect for that.
What's his ranking?
It's a tough fight.
What's his ranking in the world?
Joe Joyce.
No, I know what Joe Joyce is. What's Zhilei
Zhang's up there as well. I'm not sure exactly where his ranking is.
It's an interesting one. Has Joe fought? I mean, I was about to say that Zhilei Zhang's 39 years of age, right? But then you think about it, and Joe Joyce is 37.
Yeah.
So we can't make an argument that the fella's, over the hill.
Yeah.
But he's 6'6", Zhang, same as Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
So you're talking about two guys getting in a ring that are comparable in size and build.
Yeah.
I think actually Zhang might be even bigger and heavier.
He is bigger and heavier
than Joe Joyce. When I saw the Hrgovic fight, and I thought the same as you, I think a lot of people felt that, hang on.
I don't know how Hrgovic got that fight.
How's it gone that way? Right. But he hasn't fought, besides the Hrgovic fight, Zhang hasn't fought anyone else, has he, really?
No, but Hrgovic is a good enough yardstick for me. And that was his last fight. And I looked at it and I go, Hrgovic is a monster as well. And I go, the way that Zhang fought him and the way that Zhang put it on him, I just go, with Joe Joyce's style, I go, none of these guys, I don't think I've ever seen Zhang take a backward step, never seen Joe Joyce take a backward step, and they won't change their game plan for this fight. One thing you can guarantee is explosiveness. Joe Joyce, we know, can be hit. Joe Joyce can be hit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing, Zhang can whack, mate. And so I just go to Joe Joyce, salute you for that, mate, because you're taking a big risk there, but you're also giving the paying public what they want. They want great fights, and that is a great fight.
A lot of people, I know you'll make the case that the copper box has only got 7,500.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is that not that many people need to be aware of Zhang to be able to fill that arena in terms of fight fans that are boxing aficionados. When you talk about him taking this fight, what would have been the other options for him to have done? He's got to fight.
Yeah.
He's not fighting any of the real named fighters in the top 10 heavyweights.
Sure.
He's not gone after Deontay Wilder or Andy Ruiz or any of these guys. I mean, Dubois injured, so that's not an option anyway, and he's already beaten him as a matter of course.
Yeah.
So why do you give him so much chapeau because of one fight with Hrgovic?
Well, yeah, no, I don't give him that. I just look at Joe Joyce and I just like he's one of those guys that will fight anyone, and he just wants the opportunity and he'll fight anyone, and I just respect that, because we know there's a lot of heavyweights out there, and Simon, you know better than most that boxing ultimately is a business, and it's all about making the right move for their fighters and putting them into the right place to get them in the position to be able to get the world title shot. With Joe Joyce...
But he's in that position.
Yeah,
so then you're flying in the face of your own argument, aren't you? They're putting him in the way of risk.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that he had to fight himself into that position. What I'm saying is Joe Joyce is one of those guys, like he took the Joseph Parker fight, now he's taking the Zhang fight. I know that you're right in what you say. They might have been the best available opponent, so I totally understand that. But I go... When I heard that fight was happening, and I go, whoa, that's a fight where I go, that's a dangerous fight, that. And there's a lot on the line. It's a high risk, low reward fight that is for Joe Joyce. Because like you say, only your hardcore boxing fan would know Zhang. And the guy can fight. And he's heavy handed, and stylistically, he causes Joe problems. I think Joe wins because I just think he's gone up in my estimations massively.
But you think he knocks him out?
Joe, yeah, definitely.
You do?
I think that he does. I think that Joe Joyce will just gradually wear him down
later in the fight.
Round 7, 8, 9. I think Joyce will get to him because Zhang is so big. He takes up a lot of energy. He looked tired in times. He fights in spurts, and that'll be his downfall because Joyce has a phenomenal engine.
Relentless. He's got an engine that goes on and on and on.
Zhang in spurts is so dangerous.
Do you see Zhang? I mean, he did some damage to Hrgovic.
He did.
I do think that Joe Joyce has got more punch resistance than most of them put together.
I agree.
So do you think this Zhang does any damage to Joe, or do you think Joe's going to come through this, albeit a risky fight on paper, but come through it unscathed and having done a job that amongst the boxing press will raise Joe? He's already now in a position of really being the next off the rank to fight for a world title, isn't he?
Sure.
Isn't he?
I think that Joe Joyce is now highly regarded as the most dangerous opponent out there for arguably the best heavyweight in the world right now, Tyson Fury. I think that Joe Joyce is the name that gets mentioned every time when you go, who can beat Tyson Fury? Who today can beat Tyson Fury?
Size.
And then people go, Joyce is the only one he's the only name that comes up. Well, yeah,
size-wise, I still think Tyson boxes his head off.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm with you as well. I think that Tyson does, but what I'm saying is that's the name that's mentioned. We go, if there's anyone that's going to give him a go, it's Joyce. I think Joe Joyce has, in recent fights, has earned his stripes, and I think that he's doing it again against Zhang.
Do you think he's better now than anthonyjoshua, Joe Joyce?
Tough question. I think he's got more momentum now than anthonyjoshua. And that probably puts him in a better position, yeah, definitely. Because he's there at the moment where they're in different, they're travelling different paths at the moment.
All right,
so
well,
I think right now,
it's great to see Joe back in the ring.
Yeah,
I expect him to continue winning, and I look forward to him getting a well-deserved world title shot once we got Heckel and Keckel signing off their world title fight, and we can all move on, can't we?
Absolutely.
Okay, Spence. Final subject of this show. Again, we find ourselves in these ever-decreasing circles of a race to the bottom, but we bring it up again because it's doing the rounds again. Conor Benn.
Yeah.
Eddie Hearn's talking about potential opponents. The British Boxing Board of Control are talking about not seeing evidence regarding Conor Benn and the dialogue going on between the WBC. Where is Conor Benn? Who do you think he fights? Do you think he fights in the UK? Should people give him a second chance? And is Manny Pacquiao a credible opponent?
Well,
take him the order that you want.
Right, so I can sort of answer them all with one overall, and I think that one question we need to know is we just need to see the evidence. We keep hearing about it, and we're hearing about it, and I don't know if Team Ben are just saying it so much that people start believing there has been evidence or what, because we're saying, I've proved my innocence, I'm going to show you the evidence, We're not seeing it, so we can only go on facts, and the facts are that he's failed those two tests. And, I know Eddie's talking about, Manny Pacquiao and a fight over here with him, and WBC putting him back in the rankings, but they've presented a 270-page document. The WBC haven't made the decision. I spoke to Robert Smith.
I was going to ask you.
The British Boxing Board.
We've got Robert Smith coming on, haven't we, in a week's time? Yeah. Is that right? So we can ask him direct, but you will have already got some inside understanding of what they think. I mean, what's the story? I mean, we'll ask Robert more pointedly, right? But to give people understanding of where it may well land when we talk to Robert next week, what's the take on the British Boxing Board of No Control? Right,
so the British Boxing Board of Control's take right now is that as it stands, Conor Benn hasn't got a licence, and as it stands, Conor Benn will not get a licence back.
But does that mean he can fight in this country?
No. No, he can't fight in this country. So if Conor Benn, this is how Robert explained it to me. If Conor Benn goes and gets a Nevada licence, he said that doesn't mean if he applies for the Nevada licence and they give him the licence, doesn't mean that he will be allowed to box until he's proven his innocence. He said because if the WBC put him back in the rankings, that doesn't allow him to box for any sort of organisation anywhere around the world because they put him back in their rankings, and I said to Robert,
how do we explain other fights?
Right, so let me explain this. So I said, if he gets a Nevada licence and he wants to box over here against Manny Pacquiao, can that happen? Robert said no. I said, well, why can't it happen? He said, because we wouldn't sanction the fight under the fact that he hasn't got our licence and he hasn't proved his innocence on this situation. He said we have asked for that evidence and they have not supplied that evidence to us.
But we'll ask him, but I'm just curious to see how other fights have gone on which haven't been licensed by the British Boxing Board.
Yeah, like the Luxembourg licence, because they have to be sanctioned by the British Boxing Board. Even though it went on, the British Boxing Board allow it to go on. I think that's what he was saying. Look, he's going to clear this up for us next week. But
well, that's as clear as mud, isn't it?
I said to him, can he box here? He said, Conor Benn will not box in this country until this situation.
Why do you think? Why are they suddenly making all this noise again? Why are they suddenly indexing? I mean, is there a parallel universe? I can't make a case for it where he warrants a shot at Manny Pacquiao, and why Manny Pacquiao would want to be in the ring at this moment in time with someone that's got a stigma attached to him. Sorry, Conor, whether you like it or not, you have a stigma that you've done not enough to dispel. Yeah, your advisors might want to help you a bit more with that rather than trying to find ways around it. Yeah, but can you see any arguments from the side of the fence that suggests that Manny Pacquiao would want to get him with Conor Benn? Can you see why Conor Benn would want to fight Manny Pacquiao?
Well, listen, I think the only reason is obviously for the financial reasons. I mean,
is that what it's come down to now with Conor?
Well,
is this what it's come down to?
Conor's not even won a British title, has he? So what I'm saying is Manny Pacquiao's an eight weight world champion.
But how would Pacquiao and his group be squaring that circle in their mind? Simply because it's money. He must have made a fortune.
Unless you can tell me another reason why you think that would happen.
Well, do you think it's clickbait? Do you think certain people are throwing clickbait around like there's other people doing?
Who knows? Like, because that's what I'm saying. This whole thing around this Conor Benn situation at the moment is we're hearing so much about fights that are being made, potential fights that are being made, Gervonta Davis, Manny Pacquiao, all these names that are coming up, but there's nothing. We haven't moved on at all, have we? From the day he tested positive, we've not moved on.
I hope that we get to a point where the conversation is it's got a 3-line whip underneath it. It's a bit like Man City in football. You know, they need to dispel the allegations, and they need to do it comprehensively. Yeah. Conor Benn needs to do it comprehensively, and then I would be straight away, if he were found guilty and has to serve a ban, a retrospective, a simultaneous ban, whatever it is,
just get it done.
I would be in the camp of giving him a second chance. Yeah, would you be in the camp? Because you've been very vociferous.
I have, because you know my feelings on it. You know my feelings on the whole, the whole drugs thing within the sport, and I'm strongly against it. And I think that this situation.
But you're not in the camp of one strike and you're out. Then you're in the camp of one strike, you get a consequence.
I think depending on what it is, I think it's depending on what it is, and like you say, I think with this Conor Benn situation, and I've taken a little shit on this actually over recent times because of my stance on it, and I go, well, prove me wrong. And when you prove me wrong, then I'll understand it. But until then, I don't understand it because I know what it is.
It's extraordinary.
And that's the problem that we've got at the moment. I go, don't be giving me shit. I'm not the one that's the guilty party here. I'm talking about trying to clean up the sport and making it right. Like not, and I think that it's going on too long now. The British Boxing Board of Control needs to do something. The WBC needs to do something.
Well, they can't do anything apart from giving the information. They can only stop him from doing things. And that means that they can't do anything. If he doesn't choose to participate with them or to engage with them, there's not a lot they can do, in fairness to Robert Smith.
Well, that's what I think.
If he does find himself in a way of boxing again and wants to believe that he can fight in this country, then that's when they need to step in and find a solution to it. I just think that the reasons why the noise is beginning again, because they're laying the pathway for something. Yeah. And if they're talking about fights and who he might fight, and they're starting to build up the energy around Conor Benn, and I mean that's his promoters, then it's because they believe they're about to lay something down on us. Sure. Whether that's something we can all accept is a different matter. But look,
well, listen, I just need to hear it, and then we can make our decisions off that.
Yeah. Okay, that's it for this week's edition of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing. Of course, keep leaving the brilliant questions in the comment section below, and we'll look forward to seeing you on episode 13 next week.